But I also viewed those that worked with us and for us that didn't know Christ as a mission field. And, if we can bless them by providing job and security there and just all the good things about working in a good company, but also you have the opportunity to share the greatest news ever, which is obviously the gospel. Yeah. And so I just looked for those opportunities regularly. And God, in this book, over and over, I share some of those stories where God just did things that honestly, you can only say it was God.
Welcome to the Step Up Podcast, where our goal is to help you step up in every area of your life. I'm your host, Josh Thomas, and I am joined by my pastor, Chris Kouba. All right, PC, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So I'd be curious to know this. I've been spending a lot of time with my worship coach, and we actually had this conversation this morning just about who are some guys you look up to, right?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know for you, are there some guys that you look up to, maybe in the life of our church, just kind of around, or?
Yes, I got a bunch of guys. I've got guys that have been kind of like mentors to me along the way. I've got some like ministry guys. There's a guy named Dan Dumas. Dan is great.
Dan the man.
He's been a huge one on that. I had a guy, actually passed away during COVID, but his name was Rod Masteller, who was like a pastoral kind of just mentor, just an encourager. He had a gift of encouragement. Since coming here, it's been interesting because I've gotten some other guys. Jeff Wells is one I think we'll have on the podcast at some point. Yep. Yes, and just a bunch of other pastors in the area that have become that. But I've also had guys that kind of in the church that just like get it.
Oh yeah.
That you're just like,
yeah,
dude, how did you do that? Like, I wish I was there at the beginning so I could like take credit for it.
Yeah.
Not that it's not anything, it's God, but it's sort of like just this like thing of like, no, man, you've got it. What about you?
A few. So I think about Seth Brill, who's my college pastor. I love, more affectionately known as Breezy. I love Breezy. Eric Smith.
Love Eric.
Just, oh my gosh, he's one of the most humble men I know. Does a lot of thankless activity and doesn't want the spotlight at all. Bruce Poole, Lo Alleman, just some guys that I look at them and I'm like, I think I want to like do my life like you know? Yeah. But I'm really excited today because I feel like you and I get the opportunity to spend some time.
This is kind of fun
with a guy that just means a lot to the both of us.
There's no question about it.
And so, PC, why don't you let the folks know who we have with us today?
Very exciting. A little bit of a different setup here in our podcast studio, but a guy that has been that for me in every way, and I know has been that to you, and for many guys on our staff. Todd Stewart is in the house. Whoop, whoop. Todd, it is really good to have you. We're so glad to have you at our church when you shared with us, and we got a chance to promote your brand new book, which
Let's go.
I feel honored. I read this thing a year ago. I literally thought about that.
Oh, wow.
I read this a year ago. It was a really clunky Word doc with the pictures all off. But man, I couldn't kind of put it down. Just one, because I've seen and watched so much of the story play out. But I also, there was so much that I didn't know and I learned. And I know our church has already been so blessed by being able to see it. Todd, this is an honor. This is an honor for us to be able to have you here. To have you in this building, in this church, which I know has been a lot in your life. But also just, I think Josh and I can both express to you just how much we appreciate the encouragement that you've been to us, just the way that you have invested in us and the way that you have allowed really this passion to kind of reach men has been kind of your story. Tell us a little bit about your background and your story and how, even why being on a men's podcast is really just the blessing of the Lord, because thinking about how you even got to this place.
Yeah, it's just crazy when I think back, to be honest. Obviously, Humble plays such a special role in my life growing up here, having gone to Humble High School, thinking back to when this church was located downtown across from the Catholic Church before this building was ever here. Yep. And just being pursued by a guy that I played football with in high school and getting invited to a men's Bible study for the first time when I was really newly married. Had no idea what I was in for. Guys joke about the fact that I just literally waltzed in there. I think we were playing basketball afterwards.
Because you didn't grow up church at all. This wasn't a part of your life.
Yeah, not at all. My grandfather played a key role in my life in the fact that he told me I needed Jesus when I was 17, but he was dying of cancer at that time. Okay. I always say I didn't understand the treasure he laid at my feet that day But we didn't go to church. I would call us Christers,
Okay.
Christmas, Easter, when we were with my grandparents. But my dad was not a believer, and so my mom married into that, and so we didn't have a lot of spiritual upbringing, if you will. And so for me, over those years, it was I just never really, I would say I had opportunities, but I didn't seize those opportunities. And I was too busy playing in the world and doing what lost people do. And trying to consider myself a moral guy, if you will, like teachers and those things. Like there's a lady that I saw just at Phil Marlowe's funeral last week, who she literally taught me math in middle school.
Wow.
She's in her 56th year of teaching.
Okay.
She came up and hugged me.
You're not even that old, Todd. That's
it's crazy.
Kind of amazing.
It's crazy. Yeah. But I mean, just the fact that there's such a history here at this church and with people. And, but yeah, that initiation happened for me at a men's Bible study. And so it's special to be a part of what you guys are doing here. I know it's blessing a lot of men.
It's pretty wild. So tell us a little about your journey then. So like you graduated Humble, you went to school, then what happened?
Yeah, so my dad was laid off in his early 50s, and that's shocking because he never lost his job. You got to understand that he had been transferred overseas, and he was managing director for a large company overseas. Got transferred back to Atlanta. In that time period, I was in college, and I was an only child. So when he got transferred back, I mean, the fact that he got laid off, so he reached out to me. My mom and dad both did. I was a senior in college at the time. I remember thinking, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
Like, I need to probably get my act together. And I did, kind of up my hours to like 19 hours, and actually started doing better in school because I think I was more purposed at just getting out. And so at that point, my dad took a huge risk, and he decided to cash in his 401k money to start a family business at the time. And that's part of our story, is that big risk that he took in his early 50s, really my age right now. When I think about it, it just blows me away that he would do that right now. Yeah. And so I was cheap labor right out of college. I really was. Made $250 a week. And
you probably thought you were loaded at the time, didn't you?
Oh,
right?
I mean, I was in hog heaven, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I was married Nikki right out of school.
Okay.
She was a teacher, so I think she made about $30,000 a year, maybe 28 at the time. And I had my little job there, and I was driving a forklift and doing manual labor. But I just saw that there's a future here. I think we can do this.
Yeah.
So I was excited.
What was the company? What did y'all do?
So it's called Gulf Winds International. And so we're a third-party logistics company. So our very first customer was a coffee company. I love coffee, but this was green coffee, and it's imported in 130 to 150 pound sacks. So we literally would hand unload that coffee onto pallets, and we would stack it. And then when they'd get ready to roast it, then we'd ship it to them. And our very first customer, nobody knew this at the time, was my mother's first cousin, who happened to be handling that product for that company at the time.
That's
and so,
wild.
So that was our in, and
what
kind of kicked
just
it off.
Real quick, what is green? Like, have you had green coffee? I feel like you're the kind of guy that would have green coffee.
I'm gonna not take offense to that because I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
I don't know what green.
Seems,
I don't know what green coffee is. But
coffee?
what is green coffee? Is it like healthier coffee?
It's just coffee that hasn't been roasted. And now what's crazy about it is the smell of coffee. You love it, right?
Right, yeah.
You don't love the smell of green coffee.
Okay.
So Nikki would literally like make me take my clothes off outside before I came in the house, because like my truck, my everything smelled like green coffee. It just permeates everything.
And just so we're like, so like for the guys listening, you were like operating the forklift.
Correct.
When you like at the offset.
Yeah, correct. I was sweeping the floor, operating the forklift. I was blessed to do the hard work early, and I think that really helped me later. In fact, I think about my son, Lane. I remember a few years ago where I remember him telling a mentor of his, I'm at the stage where I need to go drive the forklift and in ministry. And what he was saying was basically he needed to do what I did early, which is
that's good.
It's really hard to duplicate that. Yeah. And so for me, of course, you guys know the success story. It just really helped me in my leadership as I grew, because they knew that I had been there from the beginning.
Walk us through that, because obviously in the book does a really good job, but like you didn't stay in the forklift. Yeah. And the business didn't just stay as a family business that was a risky thing. It took off, right? I mean, it did well. Yeah,
I would say it took off, but at the same time, it was a struggle.
Okay.
And like most companies, they teach you in business school that 99% of companies go out of business because of lack of initial capital. And all we had was my dad's 401k money to start the business.
Okay.
He could not get financing. In fact, we even factored at a high interest rate for a season. And so we finally did get financing through a bank, but it was after that first year, and we almost went broke the first year. And literally, I remember my mom in tears paying the bills, and she had kept back like $4,000 that basically she's like, this is an emergency fund. Yeah. And my dad was a very gracious man, and he had gifted ownership in the business to another man that was handling operations for him. Okay. And they had lunch with her and literally asked her for that last $4,000. So can you imagine the weight? Here she is working as a nurse. She's, I admire her so much in that season when I think on it now, even just so blessed that she put that forward, because it could have been a different story. We could have closed the doors very easily. Yeah. We got some leniency from our landlord, and then we were able to kind of turn that corner. Yeah. And from there, we rapidly grew into really what I would call, by the grace of God, the number one company in what we did through the Port of Houston. So we actually became the largest container hauler by volume out of the Port of Houston, which basically means we handle more containers that come in on a ship than any other company in Houston. Wow. And so that's a testimony to God's goodness, His grace, but a huge team that played a part in that. Yeah. And so
walk us through your leadership journey. I mean, you ended up then doing obviously different roles, and eventually you took over for your dad. Is that right?
Yeah. So I did a little bit of everything, which again I think was so important for my leadership development. And so 2 years into the business, I came to faith. We'll talk about that because that changed everything. But I did a little bit in safety.
Press in on that. Why? Because you went to the men's Bible study, got introduced to the Lord. Yeah. But then you're in a business, then you're doing stuff. Like, walk me through what that started to look like.
Well, keep in mind, I'm an only child, so I'm basically president in training. I have that vision in mind, like this is going to be something that we're building together. But I just saw myself one day taking over the business, and that the opportunity was there. But literally 2 years into the business at this church, in the old facility, I heard a sermon from actually it wasn't even our lead pastor at the time, and he preached a message. That message was, God's going to give you opportunities in your life, and you have to seize the moment. And I literally remember having been in that men's Bible study and my heart being convicted from opening the scriptures for the first time. God was speaking to me personally in my life. And so I felt like every sermon was right to me. You guys know what that's like when you're preaching and you see those eyes. Yeah. And so for me, that moment, I looked at Nikki, and she had grown up in the church, so she knew what was going on. And I got up out of that pew and I went forward that day, and literally my whole life changed. So I carried that with me into work. It doesn't, obviously when you give your life to Christ, everything changes. And I was a different person. So much so it was even challenging for Nikki and I, because she married a different person. Yeah. That's a whole different story for another day, but awesome. I went in and I just started just having a heart for people, because I realized what I had been forgiven of, the sin and the shame in my life, just launched me into what I would call a life of ministry. And that's what my life became. I just happened to be in business.
Okay, press that into that, because I know there's a lot of guys listening here who maybe listen to the podcast, maybe go to church, maybe hear this challenge to live out your faith, but they're also judged by metrics. Yeah. I got to meet this stuff this quarter. If they're a business owner, they clearly want to make a lot of money. And I know it wasn't like you gave that part up of you. You wanted the business to do well, and obviously led it to where it even got to the point where it's the number one in Houston. So how did those two things go together? What would you speak to a guy out there that's wondering what that functionally looks like?
Well, I think one of the greatest things that we can do as believers is to work with excellence in every area. And that can sound kind of rote, so to speak, but it's really true. Like, you want to be the best at what you do. So in our business, it was hauling containers. It was handling freight through the warehouse. It was being innovative in technology in order to be able to track things for our customers. And so we were very passionate about doing a great job for our customers. I think what changes, and what changed for me, though, is when you come to know Christ, you just see people differently. And so whether it was our customers, our vendors, or for me, our employees, because I worked so closely with our employee group that I just wanted to make sure in whatever we were doing that somehow, some way they heard the message of Christ and the freedom that comes through having that relationship. And so it doesn't discount at all what you do for a living. To me, it kind of heightens the opportunity, if you will, in allowing you to be a witness on just a bigger platform. And so I just felt that, every time I would get a speaking engagement or go into a customer call, I would do little things like, hey, I'm going to pray with my sales guy before we go into this call. And I'm going to pray that, yes, we'll get the business, but I'm also going to pray that we'll have an opportunity to maybe talk to him about maybe some personal issues or challenges that might lead into a faith conversation.
Did you know they were believers, or were these people that maybe not have been believers?
Yeah, both.
You just like, hey, you didn't care. You're with me on the sales call.
Yeah.
Let's pray before we go in.
Well, it was both. And I was blessed to have some strong believers around me.
Okay.
But I also saw some people that worked with us come to faith in that process. Over time. One of them goes to church here, Patrick Mayer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Patrick and I had many calls together over many years, and Patrick had a Catholic background and a praying wife in Jessica. And, I remember many of those conversations, and I watched God over time just, work on his heart, and he surrendered his life to Christ ultimately through that. And so then now you're on the same page. Now you have an opportunity to even heighten that witness.
Sure.
And so God blessed me with some great, great people that really understood that. But I also viewed those that worked with us and for us that didn't know Christ as a mission field. And, if we can bless them by providing job and security there and just all the good things about working in a good company, but also you have the opportunity to share the greatest news ever, which is obviously the gospel. Yeah. And so I just looked for those opportunities regularly. And God, in this book over and over, I share some of those stories where God just did things that honestly, you can only say it was God because, you could never write them up.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Step Up Podcast. We're so grateful that you're here. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you don't miss an episode. Also want to make sure you have the opportunity to pick up the copy of this book, Delivering Hope by Todd Stewart. We're obviously talking about it today, but I'm telling you, there is so much that is not being said that is found in this book. You will be inspired by his story, and it will hopefully inspire you to consider what God wants to do in and through you as you're a businessman trying to live out your faith. Practical principles, pick it up today. Okay, you got to double click on this for me because I think the average guy listens to you and feels like evangelism, caring about people in that way, and then also trying to make sure that I make more money feels like their intention. And you just described them like it's a Tuesday, like a normal day at the office. Like was it? Did you just automatically know how to do that, or what was it like at the beginning? Did it feel pushy or awkward, or walk me through?
You know how I would describe it. First of all, you talk about what you love, okay? And so I always challenge guys with that. Like you're just going to do it, whether it's the Rockets, whether it's the Texans, or whatever your team is. People do it all the time, and so for me, when your love becomes Christ, when you really understand what He's done for you, then you can't help but want to bring that out in a winsome way. And we always talk about doing it winsomely. I'm definitely one that believes that obviously the scriptures are clear, right? That it's not necessarily through condemnation that you're going to win people to Christ. Ultimately, it's the kindness of God that leads people to Christ. And so the more we love people, but the greatest act of love, right, is sharing the truth with people. And so if you really love people, you're going to share Christ ultimately in those relationships. I mean, I can remember a guy it's not in the book, and he was a customer, and he was way up in another company. In fact, he was running the company here in Houston, and it's a global outfit. And he and I would play golf together. We were so opposite in every way. I mean, when I say opposite in every way, but our golf games were somewhat similar, so he enjoyed playing with me. And so I knew in my heart, no one's ever gonna share the gospel with this guy. He came off as rough around the edges, kind of had a foul mouth, but again, lost people, that's what they do. It's just the language. I mean, he had served on a ship, and those kind of things, but I just, for whatever reason, he took a liking to me. And so you can love people in a way that winsomely draws them And then you have that opportunity as you develop that relationship. But I want to get back to what you said, Chris, on the profitability side, right?
Yeah.
The struggle between how do I make money, but also witness the gospel. And again, I do feel like they go hand in hand. What we used to say in C12, the Christian CEO group that I was a part of, is no margin, no mission. And so if you can't make any money, then it's really hard to give money away and build things. Now that said, you're going to have ups and downs in business.
Sure.
And so you have to stay faithful through those ups and downs. And we definitely experience lots of those in our company. I think a lot of people just see the success story of Gulf Winds and, becoming the number one company, if you will, and all of that. But there were many, many battles, spiritual battles.
The book is great. That's where I want to encourage you.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, make sure you get a copy of the book, because
Yeah.
it isn't just the last chapter.
No.
It's all the chapters leading up to that last chapter that makes it, and which, by the way, the last chapter is still being written. And
Yeah.
that's another thing we talk
Oh,
about
no
at
doubt.
some point. Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. And so I would just encourage guys with the biggest piece I would encourage them on as it relates to sharing your faith, though, in the workplace is check your own heart. And, when you're surrendered to God, there is no greater calling than to lead people to Christ. And a lot of times that's just living that out before them, loving them in a way that draws them to Christ, but eventually using words. Yeah. And so I got to use words, and I did that in the business and also with our vendors and customers. And inevitably, God does the saving, He does the drawing, but we are called to present the gospel. And so, it's necessary.
This is going to sound like a weird question, but I know a guy's thinking this out there, but if I share my faith, I'm not going to be as successful.
Yeah.
You would clearly say that's not true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And of course there's a cost. We all care about our reputation, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately our reputation with God matters more than anything. And so if we're doing our work with excellence, then it's really hard for people, you're even at peace with your enemies when you're doing
Okay, walk us through that.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you had difficult conversations with guys.
Yeah.
You had to correct people. You probably had, we've talked about this, you and I have personally.
Yeah.
You've had to fire people that you still loved.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily take away your primary goal of also being a witness to them. Walk me through how you navigated that.
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately, as a leader, one of the hardest things you'll ever do is have to let people go.
Yeah.
And it's not fun, no matter who they are, whether they've done a great job or a terrible job. But businesses change, things change, circumstances change. And as a leader, we're called to take care of the whole. And I always would pray, God, I know my primary responsibility is the whole of this organization. And so if I stay focused on what's best for the organization as a whole, then I just believe that's going to fall in the will of God. And sometimes that meant having to let go of people that maybe they love Jesus too. The worst case is when you have someone that loves Jesus and they're in your organization, but they don't necessarily have the skills to do the role that they're called to. Yeah. And you love them deeply and you want them to succeed, but it's just obvious. And it's not only obvious to you, it's obvious to everyone around you. And so one of the things that God taught me over many years that really has been beautiful is, I look out now and of course, I sold the company back in the end of 22. There are people that have worked at Gulf Winds all over now in the logistics space and even in different spaces that are doing well. I literally read something on the way here today on Facebook. No, it was on LinkedIn, that a young lady who actually is in that book, I won't name her, but she came to faith on a mission trip.
That's so cool.
While translating for me, while I was preaching the gospel, she looked up and said, "Me too."
That's so cool.
She literally just got promoted today to a VP role within Salesforce. She had phenomenal skills across the board. The season just wasn't right for where we were at Gulf Winds. And so every organization goes through seasons. And I think there's different seasons for everybody. But as a leader, learning to trust. And for me, it was this: God, you love these people more than I do. God, take care of them. There's a couple people now that used to work for me, great friends. They actually own their own companies now. They're going to do better in their own business than they would have working for me.
Yeah, that's good.
But at the time, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Because it's agonizing. But the real question is not, is it hard? The real question is, do I trust God with people. And how can I do it in a way that honors God? And praise God, I didn't always make the right decisions, I'm sure, but I just tried to honor God in that. And one thing I can tell you, if you do that, then you're going to maintain a reputation over time. And that speaks for itself.
Yeah. And I've seen that as well. Just, I mean, your reputation in both the company, but also I know some of these people that you're referring to that have also worked for you, and they have spoken to that. I think one of the things I've challenged the men that are for sure listening to this, I'm sitting here with two guys that I know are evangelists, something that's big on my heart too. They're both also very good at what they do. I know you've done that. Of course, Josh, you're very skilled at what you do, but you also do it in a natural way to where both of you love Jesus and you love people. And so it's not as hard as it sounds. I think that's what I would encourage the guy that's out there. We're not asking you to break HR rules. We're not asking you to somehow all of a sudden go and start, in the break room and stand up on a table and have your Bible and do whatever else. You never did. I mean, that wasn't the case. I think there's a big difference in the power of, hey, can we pray before we go into this meeting? Like, that's life-changing. Like, that little bitty thing right there. Introducing God into the flow and the normal things of your life is going to be so, so key. And doing your jobs with excellence. Those two things have to both be there. But you can't separate those two things. And
and I would say, too, now, don't discount starting a Bible study. Don't discount that prayer. Don't discount the little things that you can do to move people a little bit closer to Jesus, or closer to knowing him, or even closer to the scriptures. You'd be amazed that most people don't have people in their lives that read the Bible. Most people, we take it for granted within the church. But that's the beautiful thing about being in business as ministry. I remember Chuck Swindoll. I used to listen to him when I first came to faith years ago. I think he's still preaching. But he used to say, man, you guys have it made. Like, I'm preaching to the choir. Like, you guys get to go out and do this every week. If you really own that, it's just mind-blowing what you can do. And again, don't overcomplicate it, because I think sometimes the other thing I would say is this, like you're not me and I'm not you. Like, okay, I'm not Todd. I think it was even my mom who said to me, Todd, God he doesn't always impact everyone the same way. And I was pretty wired up about the Lord, as you would imagine, early on. And I think what she was trying to say was, I had an uncommon zeal. Okay. But God affects change in people differently. That doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means, what is that for you? What is your gifting, and how do you execute that wherever you are?
Really good.
Like, don't try and be me, because I can't be Josh. I promise you that. I can try and sing all I want. It's just bad. It's not going to happen. But at the same time, I know that, yes, God cultivated in me a heart for evangelism early on, primarily through the local church, because literally I was thrown out into evangelism right after I got saved, which is crazy to think about, but it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I had to overcome that fear early, and I learned what it was like to just sit next to somebody on an airplane and say, talk to them about their day, and then somehow figure out how to weave Jesus in there. And God's the one that opens those doors. But we do have to be faithful to walk through them and take some chances. I think about when I took over for my dad. My dad, he passed away in 17, and he died of leukemia, and it was a rough go. I was going through a lot of things. It's in the book at that time. But man, transitions and leadership, that's the other piece where when I decided this company was made for more. And we were gonna not just be successful, but we were going to figure out, how do we build the kingdom of God through this business, in this business, for him and for the flourishing of people. And the number one thing I think we did, which I think you're doing a fantastic job of that here, Chris, and we've talked about it, is literally charting a mission and a vision and values for your people. And so I was with my executive team, and we did that early on. So it's not just Todd that was involved in this. It was Patrick and Buddy Sexton and others that got involved in that early on. And we talked through, what does this look like? And we were bold in what that mission was going to be. Ultimately, I had to put it out there. But when you do that, it just charts a path that others can look to. And again, without the vision, the people perish. And so I knew that needed to be clear. And I also know that anytime you're going through transition, and I have a dad that was very mayoral. I mean, my dad, he was great working a room. I mean, great. And he was on a lot of committees. He was well known in the industry. So it's funny, a lot of times, like even Lane and others, I know they look to me and probably think, oh my gosh, you know, how do we, I was in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like they don't realize that I was you just years ago. And it's so important to understand, again, that we're all equipped and made differently in that process. But we do have to be bold in setting that path and that course. And when we do, then God kind of walks you through the rest.
So good.
You know, this has been real good. The biblical character that keeps coming to my mind is Daniel. Like even from a young age, Daniel just had a deep conviction, and I honestly think it was his excellence that kind of moved him along. I think, I mean, he operated in a pagan nation for his entire career. I mean, and he's in politics, for crying out loud, in a Babylonian nation. And so, but I think just because of his work ethic, the excellence, his conviction that he had, I think God was just faithful to do that. And Todd, you and I have had a numerous amount of lunches and coffees and dinners. And one thing you always do is ask the waitress or waiter if there's anything that we can pray for before we eat. And that's such a simple thing and such a practical thing. And I'm just thinking about the life of Daniel, but I'm also thinking Daniel has some challenges too. And I mean, PC, I think this is just too good for us to.
No, I say, Todd, can you hang out for a while? Like we want to do.
We
got to keep going because frankly, there's only covered the first half really of your book. I mean, you can talk about just selling the company, the foundation, some of those types of things, and then what you've been able to do. If you'll let's do round 2.
Yeah. All right, man. This was fantastic. Todd, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Looking forward to talking a little bit more about how you've navigated some of those professional challenges. But until then, man, today is a day that you can step up in your workplace and go do the thing that God's created you to do with excellence and conviction. Thanks for listening to the Step Up Podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe, and share this episode to help us get the word out. We would love to hear from you. So please leave us a comment and even leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast. For additional information or to reach out directly, please visit chriskouba.com. That's chriskouba.com. You can also follow Pastor Chris on social media and just search Chris Kouba. Kouba is Kouba. You can also follow United City Church on all socials at United City Church. That's going to be UNTD City Church. Thanks so much.